Yeah, greetings people and welcome to another week, another weekend. Yeah man, TGIF. Thank goodness it's Friday. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You're in tune to your intercommunal sound service, Tunes and Attack with me, your host, the most Souls Liberation. And this week, got a show lined up. Yeah, my guest, none other than Michael Fuller, musical producer and podcaster. The man behind the musical production of Evadne Bygrave, Dido Bell. Also yours truly will be doing a jam session with Tim Lennon and Evadne herself. So check that out. Yeah man. And all the good stuff. Yeah. Got a little vibes from Blackout also, so check that out. But in the meantime, we're gonna kick off with the vibes from my brethren Imaara, and this one is called Trenches and the remix. Love the tune here. Watch this.
Open doors still not welcome. People seeking to find some wisdom. Some working hard to gain an income. Yet children dying anyway. What can we do, my brothers? How we gonna get our pay? See many youths going astray, and I don't know what to do. I've got to say, break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Lift the people from out the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Lift the people from out the trenches. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Ooh, 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 ooh. Politics and religion, we've got to develop a plan now. Rise and stand up now. We won't be no clown no more. We've got to break down the doors, cause we can't take it no more. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Lift the people from out the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Lift the people from out the trenches. Seeking to find some wisdom, but working hard to gain an income. Get children dying anyway. What can we do, my brother? How we gonna get our pay? See many youths going astray, and I don't know what to do. I'm gonna say, break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Lift the people from out the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Lift the people from out the trenches. You got to rise up. You gotta get up now, now, now. Ooh, well, well, well. Break down, break down, break down those barriers. Break down the barriers. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Lift the people from out the trenches. Break down the barriers.
Sounds Imaara and one called Trenches. Yeah, man, and big up to Milton and the entire crew and big up to our family every time, man. We keep the link and keep the sound frequencies coming. Break down the barriers, break down the fences. Too much people living in the trenches. Yeah, man, for real. I tell you, people, I really have some conscious and very creative people coming through this program, and I give the universe thanks for that. Yeah, man, and all who support, big up to my subscribers, big up to my viewers, my listeners, and everybody who support the Tunes and Attack movement. Yeah, man, without you, I couldn't pull off some of this, so much respect and much love. So, as always, we have Nickie's Toolkit, and right now, I'm just going to get right into the interview with Michael Fuller, so enjoy this, people. Yes, welcome to Tunes and Attack, intercommunal service, and my guest today, none other than Michael Fuller. Yes, I big up, much respect. And as you know, a couple of weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago sometime, I did an interview with Evadne Bygrave, and we spoke about the whole Dido Bell production and the Singer Book entity and all of that, and we spoke of, this Michael Fuller who was on production, and Evadne gave a big up and say, much respect to Michael. So this is the actual Michael Fuller, the man behind the music production of Evadne's, Dido Bell production and the Singer Book. So welcome. Yeah, man, respect.
Yeah, how you doing, Ripton?
Yeah, I'm good,
Okay.
And it's a pleasure because when I meet like-minded people, it's a really, uplifting energy, and that in turn just make my whole vibes just shine. So thanks for allowing me in your space.
No problem.
The conversations before, because we had a very interesting conversation before all of this,
Yeah.
So I want to start out, the fact Evadne, was on a couple, weeks back. I want to start off there for the moment, and then we can venture off into, I know you do some podcasts and the whole music entity, so we got so much to talk about. But start off with Singer Book, how, you got involved with that project.
So it's a really interesting story because I've lived, my parents, this is a sort of family home. We've been here since the early 70s, probably 72, 73.
Yeah.
Parents are passed now.
Yeah.
But Evadne used to live, or Evadne's family used to live a few doors away.
Yeah.
So I've known Evadne when we were teenagers and stuff like that. But I hadn't seen Evadne for years. And I came across Evadne, sadly, when my mum had passed, and she bumped into my sister, and we came together.
Yeah.
And she didn't know, I didn't know that what she was doing, she didn't know what I was doing. But it turns out that she was a teacher, but also that she had an idea for Singer Book, which is teaching kids through learning, but through the medium of music and song.
Yeah.
But she didn't know, of course, I'm a music lawyer.
Yeah.
So she was asking me about certain things to do with her work that she was doing in Singer Book. And it turns out that she was having a little bit of an issue with somebody she was trying to get music from. And the fact is that she was struggling to find musicians to actually work with her.
Yeah.
Because she's very good at writing songs, writing melodies, writing lyrics. And she just needed some accompanist, if I can say the word correctly, to actually help work with her.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, shouldn't be that difficult. And even though I dabbled in music production, I hadn't really accompanied a vocalist or a songwriter in any way before. But I thought, well, why not
Give it a try,
Yeah, so we did one and it kind of worked okay. And that's kind of how we got started.
Yeah, and then from there everything just started weaving bit by bit, because what was interesting, I knew when she was in Jamaica at one point and we were communicating, she said, what do you think of this little reggae tune, and I think it was the I Love Jamaica, and I was like, and because I had a radio show, I said, yeah man, I want a copy of this, and all of that, so, I didn't know even about you at the time fully yet, so I found it interesting, and I realized, okay, she got a little music thing going on, so when I heard that also, the interesting thing about it is that it gave me, we had this commercial regarding tourism and the flow that came across both from the musical side and the vocal side. It just sort of sold Jamaica in that way. So it was interesting for me when Evadne say, you know, she was even interested in contacting, you know, like the tourist board and all of that, because it really gives that warm, welcoming kind of feel, you know.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you say that. And that actual tune, and Evadne probably said this already, that came about because Evadne was in Jamaica.
Yeah.
The rules had changed. You couldn't easily fly back into the UK, so everybody was kind of locked down.
Yeah.
And I'd been working with Evadne musically for a number of years by then.
Yeah.
And I was chucking tunes together, and I just said to Evadne, here, let's check this tune out, tell me if you get a vibe.
Yeah.
And this happened just purely by accident, out of lockdown, because you know, Evadne's more so of jazz and soul singer rather than reggae, so I thought I'd just let her have a listen and see if she can kind of deal with it and
Come
do
up with
something with it.
Yeah.
And that's how that tune came together. That's a lockdown tune.
Yeah. And you know, but I can sense a lot of musical direction, you know. For you, is there a certain element where your heart lies musically, you know, whether it's a jazz, hip hop, reggae, gospel?
I'm probably one of those. I have a very diverse and wide taste. So when I was
very
younger,
eclectic.
very eclectic. When I was younger, I grew up. Well, you know, when you're young, everybody likes pop, right? So when you're kids, you like pop.
Yeah.
But as a child of the '70s, reggae had a massive effect on me, both culturally and uplifting people of colour, especially in the UK.
Yeah.
And it was a period where there was lots of consciousness in music, especially in black music.
Yeah.
So that was my first love, was reggae. And I started to collect from that point.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got into jazz funk. And I started to go to, in my late teens, started to go to some of the jazz funk live performances. I saw Earth, Wind and Fire live. I saw Teddy Pendergrass live, unbelievable. So these guys are legends. And then hip hop started, and whilst lots of people of my generation kind of dropped off because they wasn't necessarily feeling it, I kind of got into hip hop as well, early hip hop. So I was up to from the late 70s up to the early 90s, 93, 95, I thought was a really golden era of hip hop.
I agree.
Everyone's got, there's no rights or wrongs in music, it's all subjective, right? So we can all have our own taste. But I'm always open, so I even like drum and bass and dubstep. But my biggest love is reggae, and I love jazz. And you know, from funk you get into jazz, and you got into jazz funk, and then you get into jazz, and so I love the musicality of jazz. I love the depth of reggae. Just unbelievably, after all these years, reggae music from Jamaica, not just from Jamaica, from Jamaica and the UK as well, but from the 60s, 70s primarily, is huge in the UK. Absolutely huge. There's a big underground vintage reggae scene, and it's great that a whole new generation of people are latching onto it. It isn't just black people, it's black people, white people, people in Asia, people in Japan, really into it.
And that's one of the things, you know, I always say, you know, because just in my view, I feel like UK could have been the music pinnacle of the world. You know, I wouldn't say the food or fashion pinnacle, but musically, I think the UK could have been the pinnacle. Why? Because there was so much influx of music coming through. You know, even if they want to go back to even the slave trade, everything, but you got the Asian coming in, you got, you know, the Jamaicans, the Caribbeans, the Africans. There was so much influx of music coming in. And somehow I just feel like, for some reason, they never embraced it to its fullest. But
I kind of agree with that. I think America's an interesting place because they have the blues, they have jazz. So they don't always easily embrace music that's developed in another country. Whereas the UK does. You know, the UK, the blues, there's blues rock scene that developed from the American blues. Because of the immigration from the Caribbean, they adopted lots of music from the Caribbean and created their own stuff. So if you think about certain music styles that developed in the UK, I don't think it could have developed anywhere else. Right, so you've got the jazz funk scene from late 70s, mid 70s, Light of the World, Incognito, bands like that. You had the Lovers rock scene, couldn't have developed anywhere else but the UK, because we had a large second or first generation kids who grew up from Caribbean parents. Dubstep, drum and bass, it couldn't have developed anywhere else. And what you said about the UK embracing its own black heritage, it's always had a little bit of difficulty with it, in my view.
Yeah.
So if you think about even someone like Soul to Soul and Loose Ends,
Yeah.
they never really got proper props as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
From the UK, Jazzy got props and Loose Ends got props in the States. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even just the States, but Jamaica, funny enough,
Jamaica, really,
big time, you know. So, well, the train of thought, I'm talking to Michael Fuller, you know, a musician in his own rights, and, you know, a bit of, where I say, part-time lawyer going on. So, we're going to take a track and then come right back again, and when we come back, we delve a little more into the Singapore collaboration. All right.
Now you see these policies causes destruction and atrocities, robbery of the mind, but the people are blind. Wake up and live. You got to move up in a life I left the way God behind. Got to know your very best, so let your sun come shine. Say the wicked of the angle, but it's just for a time. Now we out on the triangle and the document sign. If there's no love within your heart, how can you call yourself a human being? A human being. If there's no peace within your thoughts and no empathy, how can you call yourself a human being? And that person on any crime scene. The ways of humanity so cruel and dread, corrupted thoughts, so don't be misled by the sweet talk the politicians said. They want the people them feed their stone into bread. Wages of sin and then you know of bloodshed. The truth is not a weapon, it's a tool instead. Just read the people, man, cause them are walking dead. Arise out of your slumber and come out of no bed. If there's no love within your heart and no empathy, oh, you gonna say you are a human being. A human being. If there's no peace within your thought and no empathy, oh, you gonna say you are a human being. And that person done any crime scene. I know that our life matters, but the life that is in shatters, you got to give a hand to. And if equal rights and justice matters to you, why you come and argue? I know that segregation is a part of the plan. Now the movement is moving in a new direction. We all have pride, don't change the focus. Unite and save us. If there's no love within your heart and no empathy, oh, you gonna call yourself a human being. A human being. If there's no peace within your thoughts and no empathy, oh, you gonna say you are a human being. And that person done any crime scene. If there's no love within your heart and no empathy, oh, you gonna say you are a human being.
So yes, you know, hope you enjoyed that, and back again chatting with Michael here. So we're gonna touch on the singer book, you know, how you fit in all of this. What's your role, you know?
Right, so we previously mentioned that I stumbled across Evadne. I helped her out with one particular track. I helped put some background music to one of the tunes that she was working on, and Evadne is very driven, and she was teaching at a primary school, and she volunteered to put on a play, a musical, because she loves her musicals. And I think she was just struggling to find somebody to accompany or to do the music behind her musical, prepare the music for her musical ideas or vocal ideas. So that's how I kind of got into it. So all of a sudden I'm having to write and produce, I don't know, 8 tracks for a musical. And it's one of them things you don't know until you try, and you just get into it. So I've always had the equipment. But I've always just chucked loose ideas together and maybe gone to someone else's studio and work with other people. Sometimes when you're under pressure to actually produce something, you can surprise yourself. And so we did an adaptation of a children's book that Evadne put on as a play. So she, if you like, wrote a screenplay out of the book. It was a normal book or fiction, and I produced the 8 tracks, and it just worked. And the way we normally work it, no, it doesn't always work that way, but the way we normally work it, especially at the beginning, is Evadne would come up with like a melody and lyrics, and she'd maybe sing it into her iPhone and sing it across. So I've got to okay, let's figure out where this is going and what we can do musically. And that's how it started. So that was the first big thing that we did as a play for her school, an adaptation of a kid's book. And she fair play to her, she took it on board. She actually got the kids to learn the scripts, learn the songs, and actually put it on as a Christmas play. So that was the very first production that we did. And then following on from that, we did our first production of Dido Bell. So then I was kind of working more in as part of Singerbook, the world, Singerbook company, Singerbook business, whatever it was. And that's when we did a first production on Dido Bell. So my role, as far as Singerbook's concerned, primarily is on the music. Obviously, I get involved in other parts as well, and we all kind of work collectively. But my primary role, as far as artistic side of it is concerned, is producing music, writing music, and producing music with Evadne. And if there's any business affairs that needs to be sorted out, then I can perhaps come in and advise on that as well.
Because you've got some knowledge, expertise, you want to say, in that department. I'm a lawyer. Funny enough, I'm an attorney. I'm a New York attorney. I qualified in New York. Which is why I won't go into the reasons why that happened now. But my specialism is music, so I advise. Away from there's a number of things I do, but one of the things, I'm a music lawyer, so I advise artists and record labels about their career. I'm a music business consultant. I do some podcasts, which you mentioned. What else is it that I do? Obviously, I do the some of the songwriting and production. And then I do occasional DJing. So I used to DJ mainly jazz. Now I DJ mainly reggae for the last 7 or 8 years or so. Mainly a reggae DJ. So all around the whole world, the world is music. Well,
it's interesting because since the pandemic hit and everyone's been locked down, people have really been entertaining each other online, and music's actually become a key part of that. And all of a sudden, these new ideas come out. So people like, for example, Erykah Badu, she's actually really managed to do some really good stuff with live streaming online. There's been the Versus series. I don't know if you know about that.
I've seen the Beanie Man and Bounty Killer. That couldn't miss me.
So people have actually figured out, okay, we can't actually go to any live performances, but actually there's some new ideas that we can actually try. And so that raises new issues as far as using music and how you use music and so on and so forth. And technology is, funny enough, I would say technology had a big detrimental effect on music. For example, when MP3s first came out, so it was transforming from a physical to a digital world.
Tell me about it.
But
vinyl
kind of, sadly, I'm kind of old. I still love my vinyl, but I get it. But one of the things you could argue now is the way technology is now. Music has done quite well. And music's actually kind of adapted to some of the new challenges that are out there.
True.
Doesn't mean that everybody's doing well in terms of some of the artists, because there's a big debate about artists not getting fairly paid. But music actually has embraced some of the new technologies that have come out.
Because that's one thing for me, as you mentioned, regarding the music and technology. I sort of embraced from the get-go, and I saw where it was going, because like I say, I knew from the day, being a DJ myself, from the days of record, and you log in a couple record box, and then you burn to CD, and then from CD you transfer to MP3. So I've been through all of that phase, and that's where I do sometimes miss the essence of the vinyl and so forth. But just for transportation now and all of that, I move with the technology in that sense. But I still keep to the roots, because I remember, even though, vinyl was around, I remember when I used to DJ back in the 80s, or just a little house party, I actually did cassette to cassette DJ.
and you know what? The beauty about, to me anyway, the beauty about music, there's no right way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I do both. I do use my laptop if that's the right situation. Yeah. If I'm just going to play for maybe an hour or two, you can just take a little box, because that's what's needed there. It depends on what you're doing. Yeah. But I do both, and you can entertain with both. It's just a different skill. I love it. Music is something that it's a universal language.
Yes. So while we're on the topic of music, we're just gonna take a little break and take another tune, and then come back again to the conversation. As you say, it's all about the music, and listen without prejudice, tunes and attack. Alright, so we are here hanging out at a lovely place called Hay Hall with some lovely people in the background. Been working very hard and diligently today, and we decided we want to wind down with a bit of music, a little bit of entertainment. So I myself, on behalf of everyone, and also the ancestors who are inside here, along with Tim, the main man, we're gonna do something just to entertain you all. And first track, well, I'll let him introduce. He's gonna do 2 tracks, and then I'm gonna do something from one of my musical repertoire. So if you wanna introduce.
This is Budapest by George Ezra.
And this is just a strictly improvised session, nothing rehearsed. We're just gonna play it by ear and go on. So.
Oh,
friends and family, they don't understand. They think I lose so much if you take my hand. Ooh, I need it all.
Welcome back again. Yeah, nice tune. I hope you enjoy the sound frequencies. And back again, yes, the podcast vibes, because you must can give me some stories, interviews, some of the people you've engaged over the years. Not even just the podcast, but musically, you know. Tell me some of the experience you've had, people you've crossed paths with, you know. Because I saw some photos earlier, and, you know, I saw one of Lee Scratchberry, and he's a person I did an opening for when he was 2016. He was doing his UK tour in the Belfast leg. Yeah, man, I opened for him, you know, with a band called The Vibes.
Okay.
And thinking,
yeah, so it's a really open-ended question, but I'll try to cover some of it. So, obviously, when I started, you know, I knew loads of people in the reggae world anyway.
Yeah.
So some of them are musicians, some of them are DJs, some of them are photographers,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So the photographs that I showed you earlier is from a friend of mine who's a photographer who used to be Studio One's photographer back in the day.
Yeah.
And he managed to get these snaps. Some of them have been used on album covers. But I really got to know more artists again through the podcast since I started up.
Yeah.
So again through lockdown I started a podcast series called Drop the Biscuit, and I put it on my website, and I've sort of interviewed artists or creatives, not just from Jamaica but from here in the UK as well, from various backgrounds. So I've been lucky enough to interview Ansel Collins, of course, from David
Ansel,
Double Barrel. Yeah, I've interviewed Susan Cadogan. That's a good. She works with Scratch, and I've interviewed Barry Briggs among others. And so it's been really interesting. But in addition to that, I've interviewed guys on the DJ circuit. I've interviewed guys who are just photographers, guys who are activists, poets, and stuff like that. So it's kind of a mixed bag. And what's interesting about Fault is that when you speak to them, they've all got stories. Oh my God, I'd never heard the story. And they've all got these little underground stories, and it's so interesting when you really dig into them. They're quite in-depth interviews. They normally last about 90 minutes, so it's all good fun. There's no pressure on time. But you know, they'll tell you little stories about, like for example, Barry Briggs. He introduced Barrington Levy into the studio. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I think, who was it? I think, you know, Ansel, I can't remember who it was, but or Barry, but Pat Kelly, the great Pat Kelly. He was just on the street, and they took him in, and they was the ones who introduced him to the studio. And when you scratch beneath the surface, all of these guys have got some great stories. And you know, some of them only started singing by accident. Susan Cadogan was going to the studio with a friend who was a singer. She had an appointment to go to the Black Ark, Lee Scratchberry. And Scratch being Scratch, said, "Oh, try that in, try it." And you know, and next thing you know, she's singing a song. The song's been released, and she's flown over to the UK doing Top of the Pops. So life has these little, really interesting and fascinating stories. How things happen purely by accident or by fate.
But I was just about to say more by fate, you know, because they say everything, you know, happened the way it's supposed to go, known or unknown, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So man, you know, I'm gonna kind of bring back your mind to, you know, whichever era, you know, whether the 70s, 80s, you know, did you feel like there was a struggle with black music in particular in the UK, you know, 70s, 80s, or at any point, if you can recall, you feel
I think the UK is a funny place, because just like how sometimes things happen that can't be stopped, right? So sometimes, you know, the powers that be try to move move the dial down a certain path.
Yeah.
And then they realise they can't, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Even now, this thing with, I don't know if you're into it or following the story, but even with the football thing now, they tried to do a breakaway thing, they couldn't do it because they wasn't...
Yeah, I heard a little bit, but never followed up.
That's fine, but same with music, right?
Yeah.
So basically, the reason why black people arrived in the UK held their shubbeens because they couldn't socialise anywhere else.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed into the clubs. They weren't, so they decided we're going to start doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And then of course you had some of the guys who came over, like Duke Vin, they had sound system background anyway.
Yeah.
So that's and sometimes things happen as a result of not being allowed to do something else.
Yeah.
So when you say the UK has a problem, I think. See, generally speaking, I think the UK is more of a pop world.
Yeah.
But credible music comes out from, so you always have that pop world, pop songs, novelty songs that the UK loves to do.
Yeah.
But underground black music continues, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Oh, there's something that sounds interesting. There's something going on there."
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Blackwell brought Millie over. That was the first big track that came out of Jamaica.
Yeah.
A ska tune.
Yeah.
Ernest Ranglin arranged it, but and then all of a sudden there's a UK craze of reggae and black music.
Yeah.
But it takes time, and then you've got the Desmond Dekker era. So even as I said, I mentioned Loose Ends and Jazzy B.
Yeah.
So there's always been a reluctance to accept sort of black music, in its rawest sense,
Yeah.
And then normally what tends to happen is that you get like somebody who's not black who adopts it and maybe does a track, and that seems to be more popular and go through.
Yeah.
So that does happen. But I don't think people worry too much about that. You just got to do what you've got to do. And actually, as I said, I think people's creativity always kind of comes to the fore.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say it's not just in the UK, but if you think about black music generally, it normally starts underground, right?
Yeah.
So reggae started in downtown Kingston, right? Hip hop started in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Jazz started in New Orleans, so it's always kind of underground, and there's this creative vibes that's going on, and then the challenge is how does that music get integrated into the so-called music system? Right? How does it make money?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, over what history's kind of shown us over years, is that generally speaking, it's the artist who doesn't make money. So eventually, when it starts to make money, it's not always the artist, who's successful in actually. Yeah. And what's so sad? I mean, you could go to. I remember when I was DJing jazz in the early '90s and hip hop and stuff like that. Yeah. And there's these jazz legends who had been forgotten about because they first came out in the '60s maybe, or whatever. And, but there was a big jazz funk scene going on here, and when people checked where they were, they're like a bus driver or taxi driver, or they're struggling to make ends meet. Yeah. And you find that now with lots of modern artists, lots of reggae artists, lots of soul artists, not really been paid their dues. Yeah. I could get it with reggae because reggae had a different system where the producers would pay a fee to the artist and artists. But as far as the UK was concerned, you need in the system, whatever you want to call it, the music business system, to sometimes to make big money, you need support of some of the major labels. That was true in the past. I'd like to think that maybe the music business is becoming more democratic now. Maybe some of the new tools that are out there right now will enable people to actually kind of do their own thing. But so the UK's never really embraced anything that's underground or edgy until someone's making so much noise that you have to pay attention. Yeah,
because I've had a lot of experiences, from different people, from different scenarios, and that's why I asked the question, because I feel there's that level, of kind of holding back, especially even black artists to an extent, because I know certain artists, even in this modern day and age, have had to leave the UK to thrive. So it makes me ask the question, has anything changed really? Because I'm gonna even be specific, Junior Mervyn is like a father to me, somebody I know. Even the first time when I decided to come to England, I went to him and sat on his veranda and we had a reasoning, and he told me everything, what I must be prepared for in reality and musically and all of that. And everything he told me was exactly as how it went. I've seen it for myself. And even if his track Police and Thieves, the Clash themselves made a fortune off of that tune, even more than the actual man himself and so forth. So just a whole load of stuff I've seen and experienced.
I mean, it's an interesting thing because, you know, there's no reason why, if you're young and coming into the business, why you would know about the business side. It's funny we talk about Junior Mervyn because he's a Portland band as well. But we'll put that to one side. But the problem is that I mean, I've known guys who've signed for major labels and they still haven't been made that much money. But then I've known other guys who've signed for major, not signed, but signed a one-off deal for a major label, and they did really well. So you can't always legislate it, but just generally speaking, there's a moment where you need to take care of business right from the very beginning.
From the get-go.
If you don't, then bad things can happen, and it's very difficult to correct it afterwards. So if someone has a hit and you're the songwriter and you're not acknowledged as a songwriter, it's very difficult to rectify that because the money's kind of already been paid out. And you know, so especially in the past, it's different now because we don't. Music is not consumed in the same way. You know, you could argue, for example, the majority of music now is you know, the last year, 2020, the record business had a record year. But if you talk to many artists who are on the underground, they've not really seen any side of it. Even some of the big artists, they've not seen it. So somehow the record industry has made more money than ever before, yet nobody's being paid. So you have to ask the question, why is that? And it's just a question of the structures they put in place and the deals they have with other companies and so on and so forth.
So, well, Trinidad again, speaking to Michael Fuller here, you know, and there's a lot of information being delving out here, you know, people. So, for all you music head, also listen and grasp what you can grasp, because, like I say, there's a lot of information being thrown out. And just speaking music in general. So, we're gonna take another track. When we come back, we just kind of wrap up, and then, you know, you have to drop some tunes still, you know. Yeah, man. Because as you all know, that's part of my little thing. Sometimes, you know, the person I'm chatting with don't have a clue exactly where I got planned, and I just throw them in the deep end. So Michael have to spin to a tune before we leave, you know. Yeah, man. So enjoy the tune and see you in a bit. Yeah, don't know so we have to pick up Jamaica. Yeah, place of culture, land, wood, and enough water. Island in the sun, place we have some great fun. Full of pattern and style. Come in from the track E.
Here in Jamaica, it's a place I love to be.
No doubt.
Surrounded by countryside is
Where I want to be. Real.
Sitting on the golden sand and feeling that warm breeze.
Tell them now.
I come to Jamaica to feel at ease.
So say, I love Jamaica. Yeah.
It's the place for me.
You love Jamaica.
The land of my family.
We love Jamaica.
It's the place for me.
Jamaica, Jamaica.
It's where I want to be.
Tell them some more.
Surrounded by mountains, blue skies and a cool warm breeze.
Feel that.
Red fruit and mango, banana and coconut trees. The houses are vibrant and beckon an irie hello. I tell you, Jamaica is the only place to go.
I love Jamaica.
It's the place for me.
You love Jamaica.
The land of my family.
We love Jamaica.
It's the place for me.
Jamaica, Jamaica.
It's where I want to be.
Tell them one more time.
Surrounded by mountains, blue skies and a cool warm breeze.
Jesus.
Red fruit and mango, banana and coconut trees.
Yeah.
The houses are vibrant
And beckons an irie hello.
I tell you, Jamaica is the only place to go.
So I love Jamaica.
It's the place for me.
You love Jamaica.
the land of my family.
And guess what? We love Jamaica.
It's the place for me.
Jamaica.
It's where I
Sometimes
want
we
to
like
be.
this. Some say,
Yeah.
yo, ribby bang, kenga. Wa da 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 ding. Hey, yo, ribby bang is kenga. Wa da 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 ding. Right, ribby bang, Mr. Ribby bang king. Ba ribby bang, me bang, hey, yo, ribby bang, Mr. Ribby bang king. Wa da 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 ding. I love Jamaica.
It's the place for me.
You love Jamaica.
The land of my family.
We love Jamaica.
It's the place for me.
Jamaica.
It's where I want to be. It's my island in the sun, full of fun for everyone. It's the place you got to be, 'cause it's the island just for me. It's my island in the sun, full of fun for everyone. It's the place you got to be, 'cause it's the island just for me.
Yes. So yes, back again, and we're just gonna kind of tie things up now, and before we make Michael spin to vinyl, you know. Yeah, I'm touching back a little bit with the singer book. I know this year, because last year, you know, Ian and Evadne, they couldn't because of the whole, I call it global madness still, you know. But this year, something seems feasible. So I'm wondering if at this point you've constructed any kind of, you know, musical entity in your head, or, you know, if I'd have to send you something written, or how is it going for this year so far?
Right, so yeah, so we did 2 productions before, and as you mentioned, 2020 wasn't possible because, so we had to readjust and figure out, well, is our lockdown sort of restrictions going to be with us for a long time? And nobody can answer that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Yeah. So what we wanted to try and do is to prepare something that even if lockdown restrictions are coming back into place, we're still able to do something.
Yeah.
And that's using technology, as I said before. So one of the things that we're looking at potentially is doing some kind of animation, musical animation.
Yeah.
So it means that we can prepare the animation, we can work with the music, and it's something that can be performed live, but it's also something that can be broadcast, it can be you know, streamed, it can be all sorts of things. So yes, the music has started. Yes, we've got some ideas together, some new tracks that we've been working on. And just depends on how we develop the story and how much, you know, we need to adapt the story to take into account that we're talking about an animated production rather than a real life production. But we're working it as if it's a real life production, so the kids are still going to learn their parts. They're still going to learn the songs and perform the songs. But yeah, we're all kind of systems go. So we're hoping that we can do it live, because that's obviously much better. Well, it's all good, but we could do both. We could do it live, and if we're forced to, we can do, well, hopefully we could do an animation as well. And the good thing about an animation is that there's a legacy there, and we'll be able to actually stream that forever. You know, maybe you know, rework it in different ways as well.
Because that's the thing now. So sometimes, you know, in the face, as we say, adversity, you know, it brings out a level of creativity. And even for me, with this whole stuff that's going on, I figure it's brought out a lot more on a creative aspect, elements, and, you know, see how I can give me exercise my mind. I call it mental calisthenics. And what I realize, a lot of creative people also are on that kind of same path, you know, and not dissing anybody who do a 9 to 5 and that's it still, you know. But where I find out people who are in the creative field seem to have a more fluid kind of vibes, a more relaxed energy, and just looking forward to keep that momentum and not really too pulling out the hair, as they say, as opposed to a person who's, you know, with a 9 to 5 and all that kind of stuff. So for you, you know, as you mentioned earlier on, I'm going to the podcast now, you know, because since this whole stuff, that's where your creative element got you in the essence of doing the podcast.
Yeah, so basically, my first idea was to build a website.
Yeah.
And, if you like, make my music business consultancy services available from the website.
Yeah.
And I thought, great, I've done that, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a website, but, you know, maybe I could make it a little bit more interactive, maybe I could do something.
More interesting.
Yeah, so maybe you can appeal to different types of people. So, so you know, so you can, I figured, well, one interesting way, because I used to do radio before, is do podcasts.
Yeah.
And actually, podcasts is an area that's one of the most biggest growing areas of consumption going forward, which is why companies like Apple and Spotify are really investing in podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah. So I thought, okay, why not give that a try? And it was a bit raw to begin with, as these things happen. But I've actually found it really, really fascinating and interesting. Yeah. And not everybody wants to be interviewed, like you probably have experienced yourself. Some people think, well, it'd be great to interview this person, but not everybody's comfortable being interviewed, so you have to work with them and try to get them relaxed and talk about their story. But when you get into their story, it's really fascinating. So if what I find interesting is not only just to hear their story, but I give them an opportunity to select some tracks and play some tunes, and that tells a little bit more about themselves as well, because you know, okay, this guy's going to come with pure reggae. No, he's come with some classical. He's come with a Negro spiritual. Oh wow, this is really fascinating, and you get more of an insight into the type of person they are. So you can be creative in so many different ways. I almost, you know, when I feel like I'm doing a podcast, that's their stage. Let's hear their story. Let them tell their own story. Because I think I mentioned to you before, Ripton, it's very important, I feel, that our community tells its own story and gets out there, so there's no misunderstanding. Because you know, if we don't tell our own story, then the story is distorted by somebody else down the line.
Definitely. All right, so with that, we're gonna wrap up. Anything you don't wanna, you know, mention about your podcasts and how they can listen in, where they can find you? I mean, you can check the description as always, because there'll be some contact, but you know. Yeah,
so I mean, you can find the podcasts on my website, which is yearpod.co.uk, and I'll spell that for you: yeahpod.co.uk. So I normally try to do one a week if I can. I'm not always capable of doing that, but that's what I try to do. And you can also get a really good idea of some of the other stuff that I do, the general services that I have on offer.
Yeah, man. All right. So check the description, and at the same time, www.yeahpod.co.uk. So it's like, you know, yeah, man, all right.
That's the one.
See. All right. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna close it down at this point. You know, remember Nickie's toolkit also. Check that out as always. But you know, make Michael drop 2 tunes, you know, exit, you know, for now, because we're gonna chat again, we're gonna link again. So stay tuned for Michael's selection, you know. All right, Irie. So yes, we are gonna make Michael run 2 tunes still, and before you run the tune, them, you know, want you give an insight, you know, why you select these tunes, you know. So yeah, man.
Well, first up, it's a really, really wicked piece of rocksteady, Alva Lewis, Return Home, and it's kind of got that emotion. You got it, as soon as you hear it, you put it on, you think, you're not, this is a wicked tune.
Yeah, man. All right, run it. Go on.
If I'm to die on my
Insane. And you know what that is a Ken Bo tune? I got to come back home.
There was I see who did that. So I've got that. That was
okay, no.
It was Ken Booth may have done a version. There was
somebody else did one.
Bob Andy.
Yes.
Bob Andy, yeah.
Yes.
Bob Andy,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You know,
It's got a very similar melody to
like yeah, man. Insane.
Just set this up. The Morwell's version of Swing and Dine.
Insane.
Okay, so this is Morwell's version. Of course, everyone knows the Brent Dow version, but I love this version. This is a really wicked version.
Insane.
Swing and Dine.
It's like that I take me back to the real dancehall days, the one turntable. Yeah, man. And so one X, you know. I enjoy the vibes like you're the one day and just roll the vibes and listen to some tune.
Yeah. Because those tunes, they're just classics, right?
Yeah,
it just hits you,
yeah. All right.
carry my name out on the street, going from home to home, making disturbances. So you chat, try to people. So you chat, try to people. When you carry gun, when you bring gun, when you carry gun, when you bring gun. Oh no, the wicked rain, the wicked rain, wicked rain. So you chat, so you lava, so you chat, so you lava, so you carry gun, so you bring gun, so you carry gun, so you bring gun. Oh Lord, the wicked rain, the wicked rain. So you carry gun, so you bring gun.
That, of course, was not Tommy McCooker's out there. But, all good still. Let's pick that up. Let's play a Ken Booth. Yeah, that was out there. Let's chatty.
Yeah.
Mark's wrong, but it's a wicked tune still. Okay, let's gonna play. So this next one up.
Yeah, man, and then we can take one more after that.
No problem. This is Ken Booth.
Insane.
Not for sale. Let's just check this one out.
She gives me everything, even the diamond ring. She's a girl in society.
legendary Ken Boat. Yeah, man.
He's the main man. I've got to play one Bob Marley though.
Insane. Alright, so
This is
I'll play
early Wailers.
Insane.
Early Wailers. And some wicked tune.
Yes, hope you enjoy that, yeah man, and good little chat with Michael, and he'll be closing out with another tune, from his selections. So right about now, we're gonna get into Nickie's Toolkit, and then one more tune from Michael.
Namaste and welcome to Nickie's Toolkit. I am Nickie, and thank you for joining me in this energetic space where we share time, we share thoughts, we share ideas, we share tools for a nourishing, wholesome, and supportive life. And today I want to talk about mirrors and or triggers. So much is going on in life on a normal basis, whatever that is for you. A lot of people are now in a space that they're finding abnormal, even though, with all the activities and everything that's going on, it's been over a year, so it's become somewhat normalized in terms of what is happening. So, nevertheless, it is providing a lot of dis-ease. It is providing a lot of distress for a lot of persons. And so today I wanted to talk about mirrors and triggers in the context of what are we choosing to take on and how are we processing occurrences in our life space. How are we processing occurrences and experiences? And are we ensuring that we're making the choices that are most nourishing and supportive for us, for each moment, for each day? And so that's how we are at the point of mirrors and triggers. So as we go through our daily experiences, a lot of the times we have reactions, not responses to what is happening or who is happening around us. We look at talking to somebody or talking with somebody, and a lot of the times we either avoid talking to somebody because we don't want to take on them distress. You have that person in your space where where every time you talk to them it's going to be a complaint. Are they a mirror for you or are they a trigger for you? And how do you process that? Are you going to call the people in your circle on it when they spend their time only focusing on the things that are negative? Are you going to be that mirror for them to remind them that without judgment, that there are other things other than what is bad labeled going on? And as it is for your personal experiences, when you get annoyed or upset, what kind of trigger is that for you that you need to stop and look? We need to get to a place, and our practices or daily engagements or momentarily engagements should be practices that allow us to respond and not react to life. So whether it is a comment that is made, whether it is an occurrence that happens, you're driving in traffic, somebody cuts you off, are you going to allow that to determine the rest of your day? You had a phone call from somebody and the content was just burdening. Are you going to allow that to determine the rest of your day? How do you process what is coming in at you? How do you filter? How do you take the mirrors for what they are to see what you need to work on a daily basis? And how do you identify the triggers before they push you into a state of reaction, which takes you down a rabbit hole, which I am telling you is so not supportive. So today I want to invite everybody, as you move about this moment and every moment within your day, as you're looking at your experiences, as you are being in your life, are you having mirror moments or trigger moments? And identify what it is that are the triggers that are pushing you to a state of reaction, and look at what you can do to move to a state of response, making the choice either not to take the phone call or to be able to say to the person on the phone call with love, in compassion, and honoring the state that they're in, that there's another way to be able to look at things. So thank you so much for choosing to share time and space with me today. I wish you a reflective day that is nourishing and supportive as we all look at what in our moments are mirrors, our triggers and we look to find the tools that are nourishing and supportive, leading us to a space of responding and not reacting. Namaste.
Okay, finally, this is the Wailers. I'm Still Waiting. Original cut.
Insane.
Wicked track.
Yeah, man. So to take us out, the Wailers and Waiting. Yeah, man.
I said I'm not feeling up anymore. Would I ever leave my home peaceful? I'm stuck in the door. I just wanna love.